welcome to FACEHAMMER episode 95. It's me, Russ the Face Veal. Hopefully those captions know why I've done that.
People who want to watch a previous episode with Russ with the captions on, it'd be quite interesting to. You can see why he's
what he's been renamed.
Emphasized. Yeah. So if you know, you know. Tweet him, or come up to him if we're ever allowed out.
Just share some of your favourite relevant song lyrics with him, because that's what we've been doing.
Yeah. This is why it's taken us so many times to start this episode.
Don't you worry about a thing, it's going to be fine. Let's go.
I woke up this morning just wanting my breakfast, but luckily I was able to have that and then crack on. But anyway, we're going to talk about Broken Realms Morathi. So obviously, we've done a show all about the background, and it's it's a thoroughly good read. So if you want to check that out and find out what all the stuff we're about to talk about means,
there'll be a link below.
Yeah,
or above. I'll put it up here somewhere.
We're going to make it difficult for you. We'll hide it somewhere on the screen. So
yeah.
So yeah, check that out if you want to know the story. But what we're going to talk about in this show is the rules. So, and when I say the rules, we mean the match play, pitch battle stuff. So we're not going to talk about the scenarios and the narrative stuff because that's all fine and cool, but that's not our bag.
It's not for it's not for us, is it?
So that's not our bag full of fish, is it?
We don't want that as our fish.
So there's going to be. There's some changes as well between existing things, and then there's some new things that have never existed before, both of which are going to be super interesting. So if you are particularly interested in the Deepkin, exactly how they've changed, or particularly interested in Morathi Skull and how that's changed, do feel free to use the timestamps. We'll have those in the bar of it, and then use them there for your convenience to skip to whichever bit is the most relevant for you and your army.
Yeah, and if you... Broken Realms Morathi is up for pre-order today, so please click through our link to Element and do it on our affiliate because it helps us. So and all that, and we were lucky enough to get a copy from Games Workshop because we simply love GW stuff, and and we they dig what we do, so they support us. So obviously,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Games Workshop, for sending it out to us. If anyone is a Games Workshop employee watching this, thank you.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And it's fine that you like Les and not me. Don't worry about it. Not there.
That's fine.
I wouldn't have had time to read it anyway. It's fine. I'm going to play the uninformed idiot for the purposes of this video. Not because it's convenient at all. That's the role that I've chosen very carefully to.
It's definitely the role that you've chosen and not the reason you've been on the show from the beginning. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's fine. Think of me as a small version of Morathi that's allowed on the table at the same time as a big version of it.
And that Russ is the big version.
I don't want a big version. I can't. I don't want to be.
That makes you a turtle, Les.
I don't want my name being the Shadow Queen. Come on, that's
Can we call him Russ the Shadow Queen Veal in this episode?
No. Edit. Oh shit! I don't do the edit. Right. I've lost my power. Sorry.
Every time you say "Russ the Face," I'm going to be like Shadow Queen. You're like over the top. Just.
Anyway.
Should we jump in?
Yes. So
let's just do it.
Let's go through. So we're going to talk about some updates to battletemes, which is we're going to cover. I'll be putting stuff up on the screen.
There's 6, isn't there? For in this one, you've got Daughters of Khaine, Cities of Sigmar, Stormcast, IDK, Slaves to Darkness, and apparently Pitch Battle Profiles, which is not the 6th thing. So there's only 5. So
yeah, but I mean, it's quite a lot of stuff. A bit of a thing for everyone. So I think probably start off. We're going to go in order of the book. So
cool.
So the first thing is one of the temples for Daughters of Khaine, which is the Zainfar Kai.
Yeah, which I think's pretty cool. It's nice to have adding these temples in, which is kind of cool. It means that you've got something to play that isn't Hagnar or Calibron, which is the -1 to shooting.
Yeah.
So
it's obviously based around the Snecks, as Les likes to call them.
Snake temple.
And you get some abilities. So you get +1 bravery for Melusai and Canary. It's fine. I mean, their bravery's not particularly good, so it's okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter anyway because your hags are giving them they're sipping from the sippy cup, aren't they? So they don't take battle shock.
Well, it's quite useful if you've got like units of 5 archers or Khanari, because like you're probably not going to be buffing those. It'll be the big unit of.
It'll be the massive unit of like
that you give them.
Yeah. If you, I guess there's going to be an MSU prospect in here, and the hags are more appropriately costed now, anyway, aren't they? So you don't just have one practically for free every place on the board that you want it.
No. It's I kind of think like as Russ we get to the next bit, which is like the command ability. Like this really synergizes with. Particularly the new Morathi rules, which we'll touch on when we cover the Morathi Skull. Like this, quite this sort of like Great Temple or whatever you call it, really works well with new Morathi if you lean into the Melusai sort of like style of that army. So for people who've been running the Melusai armies, this is like a really nice addition. So you don't have to worry about the Hagnar. You lose some of the the mortal in bounce, but you really put out a lot more damage. Especially if you're comboing this up.
Yeah.
Well,
you also get like the Vault of the First Brood, which allows you to have one additional artifact of power in your army, just which is always useful. It has to be from the Gifts of Morathi table, but you could just take your normal one from somewhere else if you wanted to.
Yeah, I can't remember what they were, the Morathi ones, because obviously most people, the only ones you'd ever see really would be the temple ones on like the Hag or Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron, because that's what be interesting to see if there's like revisit the Daughters book and see if there's anything like that you could next sneak in, which would be quite cool, particularly with General's Handbook not allowing you to take any of the realm artifacts and stuff. So
the malign sorcery, but you still got the new realm ones, but they're very limited in what they do, aren't they? So
and also not particularly crazy strong or anything. There's one or two,
because like it would just be Ignac Scales, wouldn't it? Like on something, if you've got it, talking old world, like the old rules. So
but you mentioned the command ability, which is basically you use it once per phase when you pick a friendly Zainfar Melusai unit or Harpy unit to fight that is wholly within 12 of that hero. You can add one to the attacks of melee weapons. So what's interesting there is per phase,
not per combat phase, not at the start of combat phase.
If you've got ways to fight in the hero phase, which you do because you've got slaughter queens and everything, you can do it in the hero phase but also the combat phase, so it's quite
which is really good.
It's one scary like hefty double tap of a turn, isn't it?
Yeah, if you've got the points to spend on it, I think it's really handy. That crucial turn when you go first, you're already in combat with like a key unit, you double tap, you fight in the combat phase, you have the additional attacks characteristics go off, you rinse the unit you're already in combat with, then you move and then go and like rinse the other unit, which is...
Can you use the Slaughter Queen's ability in your opponent's phases at all? Is it just your hero phase?
Pass. Don't know. I think.
Yeah, that's no idea.
I think it's in yours.
Yeah. So amazing though.
I don't know the book that well, so I'm pretty.
I'll have a look at it whilst you do
it. Use it in my hero phase. I think it is in your hero phase. So
I believe so. Yeah.
Then you've got the command trait. A Zainfar Kai general must have this trait. The Curse of the Bloody Handed. At the end of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 of the general. On a 5-up, they take D3 mortal wounds. Okay.
Just all right.
It's like it's almost the tax for taking it, right? So.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
With the temple, we also get some new battalions. You've got the Viperic Guard, the Scaff Coven, and the Shrine Brood, which are all obviously Sneck themed. So Viperic Guard is Morathi-Khaine and the Shadow Queen, which you have to take together. Which we'll get into in a minute. 1 to 2 Bloodrack Melusai or Melusai Iron Scales, which I believe the Melusai Iron Scale is the new hero that's in the box.
That's the hero that comes in the box, yeah. So,
and then 2 to 3 units of Blood Sisters or Blood Stalkers, any combination. Then you've got once per battle, a hero from this battalion could use a command ability without spending a command point. So it's almost like an extra command point.
Yeah, not great, but I mean, the nice thing about that is that's quite a large portion of an army, and Yeah, I mean, like
it gives you that extra, that freebie tap, don't if you need to do the point for the extra command attack on that unit. So it's because obviously it's once per battle you can do it. You're already taking most of that in an army anyway, right? I think if you lean into the snake sort of thought. So I think
you got a formation, so you get a command point anyway. You get one for free, so basically you get to lower your drops, and you effectively get 2 CP.
Yeah.
Well, you need to take the Medusa to make the Melusai battle line. You need to have 3 battle line. So, and you're going to take Morathi. So basically, you're going to have all those units. So
yeah,
it just gives you a extra artifact and 2 extra command points effectively.
Looks pretty tidy.
Then you've got the Scaff Coven, which is the 1 Bloodrack Medusa or Melusa Iron Scale, 1 to 4 units of Blood Sisters, 1 to 2 units of Bloodstalkers, and 0 to 2 Harpy units or Canary. And they don't take Battle Shock tests. I think that's a really good battalion because basically
that's a good selection.
That could be your whole army.
Yeah, or you just add a couple of characters that don't add to your drops massively. And
well, you add Morathi basically. So you know, Morathi plus that is your army, isn't it? I mean, you could have 6 units, 7, 8 units in your army plus a hero.
Which is 2 drop
with a Morathi. I think Morathi might be 2 individual deployments now because of the way she is.
Yeah,
that's it. I think it's the 3 drop's still great, and that's a great selection. It's got harpies in it. Like they're the thing that normally you'd add, and one of the only negatives to them is that they would bump up your drop. So that seems great.
Yeah. And then you've got the Shrine Brood, which is 2 shrines, 2 sisters or stalkers, 2 harpies, and it's got an ability Blood Sacrifice. In your hero phase, pick any number of units from this battalion within 6 of the shrine. Then you can basically 1 model from each unit is slain. You can heal 1 wound or 2 wounds to the shrine for each either Melusai or Karnari Harpy that was slain. So you kill your own models to heal your shrine. It's okay. But I
don't think it jumps out like Scath Coven and Vampiric Guard or Viperic Guard.
Yeah. So that one is a 120 point battalion. The other 2 are 140. What are your guys' thoughts on those point cuts? I mean, we've said it for both of them. They are good. It's a good selection. Does that turn you off because it's quite a lot of points, or do you reckon it's just all right? Or
I think if you're getting like most of your army dropped an extra artifact and 2 command points for the Vampiric Guard, I think it's fairly okay.
Yeah,
I think if you're going to go in obviously we're assuming that everyone's leaning into the Melusai heavy army lists. I think realistically the points you pay for it to be able to put down, you got 3 units of Blood Sisters, 1 Medusa. We haven't got the rules for the Iron Scale in this, in this book, and it will be up for I imagine we'll see the scroll when the army box goes up for release. But yeah, it's. I think probably I think you would take it. I think just to lower your drops, just to make yourself that little bit more competitive in a world of 1 drops. You're going to be caught out regardless, but I think 3 is that sweet spot at the moment, personally.
I think if you're running big units of Blood Sisters and the Scaff Coven not taking battle shot tests is pretty good, right?
Low drops makes you less vulnerable to getting people who have less drops than you anyway, or you going in their first turn doing a load of damage but taking a lot in return. It's just why not?
I mean, you could probably do the Vampiric Guard. You could probably get to a 1 drop, but I think I do think Scaff Coven is probably the more sensible one out of the 2.
They both are really strong, I think. And for 140 points, that's like 20. Like if it was 160 or greater, then I would be seeing that as more of a negative. But I think that's pretty solid, really. I'd definitely be considering either of the top 2.
So we should probably talk about the big bad. I mean the Morathi. I say the big bad. Well, she is pretty bad. She's the bad guy.
Russ the Shadow Queen.
So we'll talk about Morathi-Khaine first. So
no, I'm joking.
But I think so. What we'll do is we'll talk about the changes to the Morathi War Scroll and go through that. So obviously we've got the main difference here really is that you don't have the little one and then she goes big. You have both of them on the table at the same time. Which
the points increase as well, but I guess we need to cover like off the bat, right?
Well, the points are basically the same because I think she was 580 before, and she's 600 now for 2.
Oh, okay.
So essentially, you're not really getting much of an increase. Obviously, it takes up
600 now.
2 of your leader slots, but it's well worth it. I think. I can't really see writing a Daughter's Army without Morathi in it. Honestly, I never really could before, but because she was so unique. But obviously, having 2 leaders that benefit from the way the wounds work, because obviously in the past you had 3 wounds could be allocated, but there was stuff that got around it, like instant kill abilities, endless spells going before the realm. All that's gone. So if you get instant killed, you just take 3 wounds, and all the wounds go on to the Shadow Queen. And if the Shadow Queen dies, then you remove Morathi-Khaine. If you do any wounds to Morathi-Khaine, they go to the Shadow Queen. If you do any wounds to the Shadow Queen, they're on the Shadow Queen, and you can only take 3 in any combination on the 2 models. So 3 maximum on the Shadow Queen per turn. Anything that goes out of battle round, either after or out of turn, either before or after, counts for either the one coming or the one previous, depending if it's at the end or at the beginning of the battle round. And then
so there's no way for her to die in less than 4
in less than 4 turns.
And that one turn where you get 2 through instead of 3 for whatever reason, that costs you a lot.
Extra turn.
Yeah.
So that's a big change. Probably, if we talk about obviously, a lot of people didn't necessarily see the little Morathi a lot because she was only there for
she was there as a placeholder, wasn't she, until the big one came out.
So obviously, one of the things that's gone is the ability to teleport forward using the change, which is a good thing. So if people didn't know, you used to be able to have lots of models around her, and then you put her in the first available space, and if you make the closest space in front of your line of troops, then the big snake could be placed the other side, and you got the base length, then that allowed you to get into combat on turn 1.
It was the thing that everyone did, wasn't it? You'd have, most people would be, if they're going to be aggressive with the army, which you're going to be because your Daughters of Khaine player, you'd normally deploy on the 12-inch line. Go in first. Morathi then has her entire base, which is,
run a bit
6 inches a bit wide, maybe. I'm not sure exactly.
And then it's 4.5. This is 100 mil.
Is it? Yeah.
So
and then you just go forward with that. So it essentially gives her an additional, makes her 18-inch move, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
It's gone now, which is definitely a good thing.
She also has a sort of new command ability, which is similar to the old one, but so you can use the command ability in the hero phase, pick one friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 24. The unit can shoot, or if it's within 3 of an enemy, you can fight. You can't use it more than once, so it allows you to fight in the hero phase. It's kind of the Slaughter Queen's ability.
24 is very unrestricted for the shooting. That's a huge amount of distance.
But what's quite good about that is I think the Slaughter Queen's ability is called something else.
It is. I had it on my I've got it on the app on the phone.
So if you have both, then you could probably fight twice in the hero phase.
Orgy of Slaughter is the
so
that
makes a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm just double checking her scroll as well. It looks like
they were jumping around, but she gets to cast 3 spells as well.
I was going to
say
that's not an untidy
to do that, I think. So
I'm just checking to see.
The small
one. We've never seen it, and also they've added the unbinding rolls.
Yeah, so unbinding to spell
so she adds
bonus is new.
Yeah,
because she only used to get a +1 to cast.
Yeah,
now she gets to spell and unbind, and she can unbind 2 spells and cast 3 spells.
She's still got -1 to hit, so next to any unit for shooting, she's -2 with Lookout Sir, which is enough to stop people from shooting you or make it a real waste of shots.
Yeah, and she's still got Black Horror, which is a decent spell.
Yeah, quite very long range, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then it's going on a 6 because of her +1.
Yeah. So she used to have an ability that doubled the range of all her spells. So obviously, like, obviously there's reason that Black Horror's probably got a long range, but what's quite nice about that is it stops her being able to do like realm spells. I mean, I know they're kind of gone away now, but they were like, doubling like those spells was pretty devastating. But I just think it's nice you get to play with a model that you never really got to play with before.
Oh, that's a gorgeous model too. It's a really nice one.
And she's not like, you could be pretty reckless with her because she's still got a 4-up armor save, so it's like,
and -1 to hit.
And she can't die. She can only take 3 wounds.
Yeah.
She's quite punchy as like a wizard. As well. Like when you look at the 9 attacks, 3 of which are damage D3. If you put her on it, like one of the things that I think is going to be really good is that obviously she's got a 6-inch move, which is a bit slow. But in those hero missions, the objective missions, now you stick little Morathi on the objective, and big Morathi goes rampaging.
Yeah.
Pretty flexible, yeah.
Or you can stick them both on either one and just auto win because you're going to be there for 4 turns with both heroes and score.
There is that.
So then you've got the Shadow Queen, which obviously is still a 4-up save, 14-inch move that degrades. One of the changes on here I like is the change to the gaze. Purely because I didn't like how it worked before, where you could actually snipe models out of the unit without even being in range of the model. So it had a thing where you target a unit, then you pick a model in the unit, so you could pick something out of range. So I quite like that's tidied up. Not as powerful, but can't have it all. I think it's longer range, but it's fine. Heart Render's got more attacks.
Quite attacks. A lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's 3/3's rend 2 damage 3, which is pretty good.
Starts at 8 attacks for people. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, so I think she used to have 6 attacks with the Heart Render.
Yeah, 6 attacks. I wasn't sure if it was damage 3 off the bat, but it is. Yeah, that's.
I think it just used to degrade quite quickly as well. But obviously, if you took 8 wounds on the new Morathi, she's still going to have 6 attacks. So it makes a big difference.
It does.
The obviously flies, and one of the things that's really good is while the model's within 3 of enemy models, add 1 to attacks of melee weapons used by Canary Harpies or Melusai wholly within 18 of this model. So if she's in combat, it buffs all your Melusai. So obviously, taking the new temple, you actually get +2 attacks on your if you use the command ability. So you actually have +2 attacks on your units. So pretty good, but it's just
these little harpies are like they're complete glass cannons, but that's quite a lot of just output.
I think it really helps because you always used to see the shooting harpies, right? The heart renders.
Yeah.
You never used to see the combat ones, whereas the combat ones now you probably there's an opportunity for them to be because obviously they're getting buffed by all this stuff as well. Like they're gonna have more attacks, which is good.
Attack,
snipe heroes, if they're not shooting them, they're going to get in because they get the additional charge or the additional move. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's a 6-inch move.
After they fight, they can move 6 on a 4-up, I think, and if they shoot, they can get a move on a 4-up of 6 inches, which is why they always used to drop 9 away, shoot, and then move into range of objectives. That's why they were always in their bum. But the Shadow Queen, I really like Morathi anyway, like the sort of aesthetically, and I think I like the Melusai. It's my favourite thing about the Daughters of Khaine. I've actually got some like as an army that I started. Like she buffing the Melusai, I think really, and the new formation and the new temple allows you to really do a snake-based army. And obviously we haven't got the rules for the Iron Scale character, but obviously once that's released, that probably have some benefit to Melusai as well. So
it'd be interesting to see what she does if she buffs this additionally, because then it allows you to be like quite a competitive snake army, which is good.
The irony is that the armies you didn't used to see Morathi are often the armies that had snakes in, and now it just seems that she works really well even with the snakes.
Which makes complete sense for the background as well.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's like with the background that we touched on in the earlier show, it's like they are like the snakes are her chosen. They don't know like what she's really like. The normal Daughters of Khaine don't know what she's up to, where all the snakes are like the more corrupt souls, and they do know what she's up to. So it's really cool that they've lent into that.
Almost like the children of her, aren't they? Whereas the normal daughters are basically just religious fanatics that she's tricked into thinking Khaine's a thing, and she's like, oh, do it for Khaine, do it for Khaine. But
yeah,
cool.
So that's Morathi. So that's all the Daughters of Khaine changes. So all pretty good, pretty cool. Positive changes. I think they add you might see a bit more variation in lists, but I think that Morathi's got a lot more powerful, in my opinion.
It really excites me actually.
Anyway.
Yeah, it just makes me want to do like a snake army. Get you on the Drybush Fire and Drybush up some snakes with some green.
I do have an assembled Morathi from years ago, I think, or the start of it at least. Lovely wings, such a nice mini for that.
So
that'd be good, mate. See you on the table.
Then we've got the 3 Cities of Sigmar rules. So basically, you get the rules for Misthavn and Har Kuron, which are like basically two of the cities featured in the background. So you have Krave's Shadow Host, which is a formation which has got this named Sorceress or Black Dragon, which is Duressa Crave, and it's a little bit unusual because you've got a unique named character, but it's using the War Scroll for a Sorceress on Black Dragon. Dread Spears and a Dark Shards unit. All units must have either Anvil Guard or Har Kuron keyword. So obviously, when you play cities, you have to pick one of those two.
Sorry, cameras.
That's right.
I was going to say, which we'll get to, because obviously they've put Misthavn and Har Kuron in here, haven't they, as cities that you can choose, which is going to be cool.
We won't touch on the reasons why, and you'll have to read the background or watch the other show if you want to know that, because we don't want to give any spoilers out. But the ability Subjugated, so basically the Shadow Host is completely controlled by the Sorceress. So she can declare she will compel her minions to attack savagely. So until your next hero phase, add 1 to the attacks of weapons used by the Dread Spears and Dark Shards, but subtract 1 from their save rolls. So you can buff their attacks, but lower their defense. And that's just an ability. It's not actually a
command ability or anything
like that. So it's until your next hero phase. I was just looking for the duration. So there you go. So potentially, if you knew you had a chance to go twice, you could buff your attacks, knowing that you'd go again, and you could not do it, so you wouldn't have the defense. Negative.
The irony is it can be an offensive defensive buff as well, because people might decide to not charge you, even though they're going to kill 15 out of that unit, because the unit's going to be absolutely smashing your back or whatever.
Yeah. And she has a command trait in there that start of the first hero phase, you receive an extra command point. So
she's 160 points this formation, so it's got to be good to justify that, and it doesn't have much in it. That's not particularly going to affect your drops.
Yes. I mean, I look at it and I think that it's actually quite the formation. The rules itself are quite good. I just feel
they are.
It's just the units that you're taking is the issue that I would have with it in a competitive sense.
She's also not very defensible. She's got a fair amount of wounds, and you can put something on her to make it a bit more survivable. But it's a sorceress on a dragon. It's not a star dragon.
And it's a unit of spears and a unit of like crossbowmen and dark elves. I think for me, it's more. It feels like it's really thematic and cool if you lean into your old Darkling Coven stuff. If you wanted to, maybe you had that army and you really love that look. It's a nice thing to do. I'm not sure it would be cutting edge competitive on the table because of the unit, the power of the units that are within that formation. It's like Dark Shards with a Dark Spears with an additional attack are still not particularly good, in my opinion, in the game. So
I think you could have a big unit of Dark Shards. You wouldn't necessarily care about the -1 save, and they get the extra shot. Might be all right, but it's
that range isn't huge.
It's more a narrative thing than anything.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said,
no. Again, it's not where I look at for gaming side of things. But it's if you had Darkling Covens and wanted to take it, then sweet.
Yeah, so you got Misthaven battle traits. So the City of Scoundrels. So you must be from Orgu, which you know that all the cities of Sigmar have their own the realm that they have to be from, which is less of a tax now with the changes to malign sorcery. It allows you get underhand tactics, so instead of setting up a friendly Misthaven Order, Sepentis, Shadow Blades, or Scourge Privateers unit of up to 10 models on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it's set up in a flanking force or as a reserve unit. You can set up one unit in a flanking force for each Darkling Coven, Free Guild, or Duradin unit you've already got set up on the battlefield. At the end of your movement phases, you could set up one or more flanking force units, more than 9 from the enemy. At the start of the 4th battle round, they're dead if they're not on. So it's basically like it's a deployment thing, but it's a little bit restrictive because it's certain types can scout and certain types have to be on to allow you to scout. So
I think you've got the opportunity there with like Colwyn Knights and stuff, right? Because they punch quite hard. These days, they're Order Sepentis, I believe.
Yeah, they are.
That might be quite cool. Yeah, that might be quite an interesting way of playing with it. You know, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's quite thematic. I don't know how powerful it is. I'm not really. To be honest, Cities is not a book that I spend a lot of time looking at. So it's
the only reason I know that sort of stuff is because Kieran Harper, friend of the show, really likes sort of like the Colwyn Knights, or I'm not sure if that's what they're called these days, the Order Sepentis stuff. It'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure. There's Darkling Covens are the unit, so you wouldn't be able to put Executioners off the table because they'd be quite good as well.
Yeah. So they're
it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's all right. And you've got the other rule, which is Misthaven Narcotics. So basically, one hero in your army can have some drugs.
Cool.
Choose which one's got it, and you can pick on a table, and then you can have an additional hero with drugs for each warscroll battalion, and you can't have more than one set of drugs because you shouldn't mix. Can't have uppers and downers on the same guy, so you know you could declare which one he's got. So yeah, obviously, all right, I'll go there on the next page. So
drugs are bad, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just
okay.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
So yeah, disclaimer. Then they've got the Shadow Strike command ability, which is once per turn after you set up a flanking force unit, whole within 12 of a Misthaven hero. If you do, you can move that unit d6 inches. So obviously, if you're 9 away and you get to take d6 off the charge, it's effectively like having a 3d6 charge. So you could
that's cool.
You could actually like get the Alpha Strike that you wanted a little bit more reliably, because I believe that you could, in fact, flank a hero with the... so you could basically have like a Order Sepentis hero and an Order Sepentis unit and have 2 Darkling Coven units on the table. Then they both ambush, put them both 9, and then the hero would make the unit move, then it charges. So you could push your units in. So it's a little bit like the Deepkin Soul Scryer point.
Just going to say.
Yeah. Not, but like a bit
just
random. That time you roll a 1.
Deals.
Yeah, that time that you roll a 1 as well, and you're like, oh, right, cool. Now I've got to make an 8-inch charge, which is just over average.
Yeah, but effectively the way I look at it is you get a 3d6 charge, because your 2d6 charge, get an extra d6 movement.
Yeah, it's pretty reliable, isn't it? You're just adding one more dice in there to kind of...
It's on odds on... It kind of flips the odds on its head a little bit. It's a lot more likely than a 2d6, so... And it's all right, okay, but like you say, it's not guaranteed. They're not Marauders, come on. You got these command traits, which is you can use the Shadow Strike without spending a command point once per turn. So that's with Shadow Lord's probably quite a good one if you were trying to go into that.
For battle, I suppose. Battle round for.
Yeah. And then Wily Foe. Roll each dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to general on a 6 is negated.
All right.
Okay, just like a bounce like.
Then the Shade Warlock, he knows the Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and can attempt to cast one spell in the same manner as a wizard. If he's already a wizard, gets an extra spell. So,
yeah, like you said, I think Shadow Lords were the way I'd be going with. I'd be looking. You'd be building like an Alpha Strike list and taking Shadow Lord to be able to. Yeah.
And then you've got the narcotics. So you get one which is add 1 to hit rolls.
Cool.
You have another one which is ignore modifiers when making save rolls for attacks that target the user, which is Witch Mist, which I think is probably one of the better ones.
Good.
You've got the Salve, which heals D6 wounds, but you can't run or charge. Then you've got Float, which gives you fly. It doesn't affect you if you've got a mount. The Sorfang Dust, which is after you fight, you pick any unit within 1, roll a dice on 4+6 D3 mortal wounds. Or the Ink, you can add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for the user. So I think the Ink and the Witch Mist are probably the two that stand out to me.
Make you better at what you need to be doing, or make you survive longer.
Yeah.
Defense over offense pretty much all the time in Age of Sigmar. So then you've got the relics. So you've got Gloom Bell. Once per battle start, the enemy shooting phase, you can say the bearer will ring the bell. Ding ding. If you do until the end of the phase, it's that ding ding. Like Rocky.
Rocky references.
Subtract 1 from the hit rolls for attacks that target units wholly within 12 of the bearer. So bubble -1 to shoot. It's pretty cool.
Not bad. It's quite a good way to spend no points and have a reliable but not overcosted way in your army to have a bit of resilience against. Like you could bubble and play KO and just reap the benefits of that pretty hard.
But it's good because you use it at the start of their shooting phase, so they could do their movement phase to set up this big thing, and then you just go, I'm going to ring the bell, ding ding.
Apollo Creed it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then the Strangler Kelp Noose. Once battle start the combat phase, you can pick 1 enemy model within 3, roll a dice if it's a 6 or less, then the target's wounds characteristically cannot attack. So,
I mean, for monsters, it's not a bad option, right?
Well, any 6 wound hero is guaranteed, isn't it? So
yeah. So, I mean, most heroes are 5 wounds, right? So,
but you could still stop a monster on a 6, so
that'd be wonderful. Archeon comes in, lucky big man.
Right there. If the roll is 6 or is less than the target's wounds,
so
the target cannot attack. If you're a big monster and you got 14 wounds,
then you roll
whatever you roll is going to whatever you roll is going to be less than its wounds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Am I being silly?
Yeah, no, that's how I read it. If the roll is a 6 or is less than the target's wound characteristic.
So the bigger you are, the easier it is to stop you then.
Yeah. So if you want to go up and hey, Maw Crusher, then that is a fun dice to roll, because it's really easy to roll less than 14 on a d6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not very good against little heroes, is it? When you have to if a 5 wound hero.
You're less worried about those. I think
5 wound hero is still automatic unless you roll a 5.
It's or less than, so right. So it has to be less than its wounds. So
so if you roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, it works, or a 6, it'll work. But a 5, it won't.
Still pretty. It's a pretty reliable way. Okay. Again, it seems they've got multiple ways. We'll touch on the next one shortly. They've got multiple ways to just put one thing in that is a way once a game, which is often all you need to make yourself way more reliable against decks.
It's like blue, isn't it? It's disruption and turning things off.
Are we using Magic the Gathering references here? Because
blue black knobhead, Les, is the deck.
I'm just going to go to sleep.
Removal. So Shadow Silk
I like
armor,
magic. It's cool.
Add 1 to save rolls. That's a joke, by the way. Like not spelling only likes magic before we get any comments.
I love magic.
Between me and Byron, Byron loves magic.
It also follows an amazing viral video on the internet of someone tipping over a table. Which is cool.
So we have no ill feelings to Magic the Gathering.
I love magic.
Byron plays it a lot. I don't play it.
It's super sick.
I'm on the fence. Anyway, so you've got Har Kuron. So a City of Khaine, Har Kuron armies only. So,
spoilerific.
You cannot use the ways of the Free People's battle traits, and the Har Kuron army could only include units with the following keywords: Darkling, Covens, Order, Sepentis, Scourge, Privateers, or Shadow Blades. So basically, it's like the old Dark Elves minus the Khaine units. But wait, they've got more rules. So you must be from Ashki, because that's where it is. And then Temples of Khaine, 1 in every 4 can be a Daughters of Khaine unit. Those unit gain the Cities of Sigmar and Har Kuron keyword. In addition, in each of your hero phases, you can pick one friendly Daughters of Khaine priest to attempt the incitement to murder prayer. In addition to the one other prayer the priest can do that phase. So, incitement to murder is pick a Har Kuron unit wholly within 12 until the start of your next hero phase. The unmodified hit roll for an attack is a 6. It gets 2 hits instead of 1. Make a wound and save roll for each. Basically, it's like exploding 6s.
Yep. Just very, very good for making things more reliable. Like anyone who's played against or with OBR knows just how much that pushes odds in your favour.
It's just quite nice, especially if you're like leaning into the theme and like you're taking who are they? The Black Guard of Nagroth, or that's not what they're called anymore, but they've got additional attacks, haven't they?
Yeah.
Or if you're taking Executioners, again they're quite good because they're Darkling Covens. You like get that prayer off on the, because it's the Har Kuron, it's not a Daughters of Khaine unit. You can almost go, right, I'm going to buff the Daughters of Khaine unit with my one priest, and then they're going to then get the exploding 6s.
No, the Daughters of Khaine unit get the keyword too. So they get the Har Kuron keyword. The Daughters.
Oh yeah, okay,
so
and then they would be. So you could do it.
You could do it on 30 Witch Elves. So.
Yeah, but you would. Because you wouldn't be able to take any prayers out of the Daughters of Khaine, but for that
you could still use
because it would be,
couldn't you?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
It's multiple buffs from one source. It's a pretty solid thing. I love models like the Black Guard as well. They're fantastic, and the Executioners.
And then basically it's a Dark Elf army from Old World, isn't it? You can basically use all those models in one force for AOS, which is cool.
I love the name as well. Like, it's really cool.
Then you have the command ability, make an example of the week. So you use to start the battle shock, one friendly Har Kuron unit wholly within 12 of a Har Kuron hero. One model in the unit is slain. However, in that phase, you do not need to take battle shock tests for friendly Har Kuron units wholly within 18 of that unit. So you basically go, I'll kill that one. None of you run away.
That guy, and then
one less than 10-point dude. That's a bargain.
Yeah. It's I like it. It's very Dark Elves off of 8th edition. It feels like I see Ben Curry like bouncing up and down because it'll be his old way of playing. So
I did need a bit of help as well. I know you guys aren't like hugely into the Cities book, but the Darkling Covens, the old Dark Elf units, they were kind of like just a worse equivalent of the Empire Free Guild units. So them getting a little bit of a helping hand, definitely, it always left a bit of choice, like a bit of taste in your mouth. If you were trying to make an army and you just look at yours, then you got practically the same thing but better and sometimes cheaper from Empire. So this helps them get onto a more level playing field, I think.
It's just cool as well, making it a City of Khaine, going through that. I think if you really want to lean into it, it's really like, you could properly theme it up. I know we're not talking about the hobby side of things, we're talking about the competitive nature of it, but I think it does give them a buff, which is quite nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, then we've got our traits. So you've got Bathed in Blood, add 1 to wounds. In addition, you can heal a wound each hero phase.
It's okay.
Murderous Zeal, which allows you to use the incitement to murder prayer in the same manner as a priest. If you could already do it, you could do it twice.
Yeah,
cool.
And Dark Adept basically makes you a wizard or gives you an extra spell. So,
sure.
I think Zeal seems the best there. Put it on like a non-Daughters of Khaine priestess person.
Can be a very reliable army.
I think it depends what you want in your army. Like, if you say that actually my general is a slaughter queen, I want him to be a wizard or whatever, then because they could already do a prayer, or you might,
or if your Black Dragon like fighty dude, because it'll be from Order Sepentis. You put that guy on the table, he's really survivable, and then also he can get exploded 6s on himself or on other units.
Yeah,
if he can get the prayer off, I think that's kind of cool.
Or very martial.
Flexibility is very good, isn't it? So you can pick the thing you're lacking, which is good. The return of the favourite life taker in the artifacts.
Return of the Mac.
Pick an enemy in 36, roll a dice, 3 to 5, 1 mortal wound on a 6d3. So it's just a mortal wound snipe. Which doesn't sound great, but actually it's pretty useful that you've got this like way to do a mortal wound at 36 inches. Just poking.
There's other spells that do damage at large range as well that we've seen. So you add a few of those together and you get something that is very hard to defend against.
You've got the Traitor's Banner, which is subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons that target friendly units wholly within 12 of the bearer, which is great.
Yeah.
You've got the Nullstone Vizard. I don't know why, but it's made me laugh. If the bearer is on the battlefield, start your hero phase, roll a dice on a 5 up, you get a command point.
On a 4+, yes, but it's annoying when 4+s don't work. So on a 5+, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
What do you think you'd be taking, Life Taker?
The banner, probably.
Banner, yeah.
The -1 bubble, yeah.
Just lets you deploy differently against a certain type of army, and your character's going to be at -2 to hit, and the rest of the stuff's going to be at -1. It's a big deal. Like, it's a really big deal against certain armies that are pretty good at the moment.
Yeah.
And you get a spell law.
A spell law, which is cool.
I guess it's because they don't have access to the city spells, so...
there's so many old spell names. It's like proper, like, harking back to my Dark Elf army of 8th edition, which I was rubbish with.
It's an oxymoron right there. 8th edition Dark Elves are rubbish.
I know, but I was just shit at the 8th edition when I was saying
So you've got Sap Strength on a 6, enemy unit wholly within 18, -1 hits for attacks. So
good.
Always amazing good. I mean, especially if you've got Geminids as well. I mean, that's potentially -2 to their attacks.
Great. It's not wholly within, so that's even more flexible.
Yeah. With Withering, enemy unit within 18, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks that target the unit. So +1 to wound.
Cool.
Again, good.
If you've got a shooting army, like just getting to pick one thing and bully it, that's that buffs your army effectively if they've got the same target.
Quite nice. Great. If you're taking that formation, that gives you the additional shot with the dark shards, and you doubled down on a big unit.
Yeah, you could actually mull or something with that.
It doesn't work, though, does it? Because it's not a City of Khaine. It's a city
no.
So
it does work. Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. So, like with the Crave Shadow Host, you can take it if you have the Har Kuron.
Har Kuron. Oh yeah. So that's
work.
Quite good.
So which makes complete sense. Then you've got Vitriolic Spray, which is on an 8. Pick an enemy unit within 6. To the start of your next hero phase, the unit has a save characteristic of nothing.
Whoa! So
spray's in the book anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a spell, so it's just another
spray. Yeah, but I mean, it obviously particularly strong if you were like, okay, I've got the mirrors, I'm gonna juice the Crave's gonna drop the mirrors, I'm gonna Vitriolic Spray you, then my dark shards are gonna open up.
Yeah.
Suddenly, your high quantity of crappy quality stuff is looking scary with that, right?
Yeah, on that Alpha Strike is pretty good. Then you've got Steed of Shadows on a 6. You can fly and move 16 for the user. You cast that.
Yeah.
Pit of Shades, enemy unit within 18. Roll 2d6. If the roll is higher than its unit's move, it suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the difference. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And then Shadow Daggers, pick one enemy unit within 9. It suffers d6 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So that's the Cities of Sigmar stuff. So pretty cool.
I quite like the Har Kuron stuff. That got me a little bit excited. Maybe it's just the nostalgia, but I don't know how top end competitive it will be. But I think it gives you options there, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's some nice combos in there that you could do around the magic and that. And I think it leans into the narrative of that force as well, like the abilities and that. And it, like you say, it's very classic Dark Elf. So
it all fits. Yeah,
it's quite cool, and the fact that you can use new Daughters of Khaine stuff. I mean, your 2 Daughters of Khaine unit could be Morathi the Shadow Queen and Morathi-Khaine, couldn't it? So you could have 2 of those and then 6 other non-Morathi units, so non-Daughters of Khaine units in your army. Stormcast Eternals. So they've got some stuff. So there's basically some Stormhost rules. So this is the Stormkeep battle traits. So if you're a Stormkeep army, you can give it a Stormhost. So it's got all the normal Stormhosts in there. So these Celestial Sentinel rules, I believe they replace the allegiances in the Stormcast book.
It says at the top that they replaces the Living Tempest battle traits.
Yeah, so just the stuff that's in that box, but all the other stuff still applies, like, the prayers and the battle traits and all that kind of stuff. So you get to add 1 to bravery of Stormcast units from the whole of 12 of Liberators. And at the end of any of your movement phases, you can pick friendly Liberators units that did not move and were not set up in that phase, and they will stand fast. You can add 1 to their hit rolls, and you can add 1 to their save rolls.
It's all right.
Which is okay if you set an objective and you're just like going, get me off.
Yeah. I think it like I said, with the Liberators, I do think it's quite good. Especially when you're looking at some of the battalions and stuff you've got as well coming. So
they're pretty cheap Liberators.
90 points now. I think
they do a decent amount for their points.
Yeah, I think it's if you want some reliable objective holders, it helps. And the other rule is mortal auxiliaries, so you can have 1 in every 4 can be a Cities of Sigmar unit. Add 1 to bravery of those units, they're whole of 12 Liberators. In addition, when you pick a unit to benefit from a command ability from the battletome Stormcast Eternals, you can treat those units as if they are Stormcast Eternal units, so you can use the command abilities, but not vice versa. So, cities units couldn't use them on Stormcast. But
probably some interesting stuff there, I imagine.
So Celestial Vindicator's command ability is additional attack. So that's handy if you've got a Cities unit there, I believe. So
there's a way to get attack in the hero phase or shoot in the hero
Anvils
phase.
Anvils of Heldenhammer.
Yeah, there's going to be some stuff, definitely. So obviously, if you are doing that, you're kind of heavily incentivized to take slightly larger units of those Cities units if you are going to be spending a point on them to get the most out of them. A unit of 30 of X or Y, or Iron Drake shooting twice would be disgusting. There's some pretty powerful stuff in there, I'd imagine.
I'm sure there'll be a shootcast list around that with some Cities allies in there.
The Hammers of Sigmar, Gavriel's Surcharge, somewhere probably with, I don't know, Demigryph Knights, because they're cheaper than Dracoffs, or because you give them, treat them as.
Yeah, but they're Demigryphs. I suppose so. They're pretty cool, aren't they? But I think
I'm trying to think of.
You won't be able to drop from the sky, though, will you? Because you don't have that rule in this one.
No.
So I think
then I suppose the spamming of command points to make them more reliable is probably
not a thing either. Really, I don't think, because you wouldn't have enough command points, would you?
No, not anymore. I suppose you never know. I just think spitballing out loud.
Yeah, there's going to be some stuff there, definitely, and I think if you are going to do it, like shooting is often something which you can benefit from this type of thing from pretty heavily if there's anything that ties with that, because you don't need to be in range, and therefore it doesn't matter that you didn't drop from the sky, etc.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think the Anvils, Anvils are pretty much the most popular Stormcast chamber at the moment anyway, but I think with Cities units, there's quite a lot of missile units in there. I'm sure there's going to be a combo. Not knowing the books well enough to comment past that, really.
Even just it doesn't even have to be a huge thing, but 20 Shadow Warriors would be scary.
Or even
Iron Drakes would be scary. Like, there's a lot of solid
the Iron Drakes
20 Shadow. Yeah, if they don't move, they pump out even more as well. So there's kind of some obvious synergy there. And if you are an objective and you want to hold it, grim.
Tom Moore's will be all excited all over this,
Oh, I think he's been tainted from trying that before.
So then we've got the Wardens of the. You got some battalions, so Wardens of the Stormkeep. So it's Lord Celestin, 2 to 5 other Stormcast heroes, and can only be included in a Stormkeep army. It cannot include any monsters. So it basically means roll dice for each hero. Add 3 to the roll. If the hero is your general, on a 5, you get a command point. So it's pretty good, because if you're taking a Lord Celestin and 2 heroes, you've got the stuff you need. If you're not worried about monsters and your command point, you want those command points, then you're generally getting it on what. So add 3 if the roll is, if the hero is your general. So what, on the 2+ you get a command point.
Yeah, that is reliable.
And the other heroes, you get one on a 5, so you could get 3 command points a turn.
Yeah.
And if you have more heroes, you've got more chance. So if you wanted to spam the charge, you could do.
Your 2 Heraldors and your not Veritant. Or you're farming command points for your Anvils of Heldenhammer shooting the hero phase thing.
Or your Gavril Surcharge that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's pretty good because it's just Stormcast Eternal Hero, so it's just a keyword, so there's a lot that falls into that.
You just
20.
Have you got the points in front of you?
140.
Okay.
For Wardens.
I mean, it's expensive, but it's good, right? I mean...
Yeah.
Again, it's not one that's going to get your drops down.
Not massively,
really.
But it still gives you... It's the command points it gives you, because it gives you 1 for formation, gives you an artifact, and it gives you potentially, like, between, 1 and 6, or 0 and 6 command points, depending on how many heroes you got in there.
Yeah, it's kind of a resource farming thing, isn't it?
It's pretty good. I mean, like, it's almost like the Aether Quartz Brooch on crack, really, isn't it? So
yeah. I mean, it's like your average good Stormcast heroes between 120 and 140. So you just don't take one of those and put this formation in, and then you're dropping it anyway just for the ability to have those extra command points.
Yeah, it's just your first hero phase, so it's only the first one. But
okay,
that's when you need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then you've got the Storm Tower Garrison, which is a Vexler, 2-4 Libs, 1-2 Paladin, 1-2 Justicar.
Do you know what the Justicars are, Russ?
They're the Soul Wars ones, aren't they?
No, any shooting. So it's Judicators or Secretors. Judicators or Castigators are classed as Justicar units.
All right. So if they're holding within 12 any Liberators, they can use their Shield of Civilization battle trait to stand.
I'm just checking now to make sure I'm fucking right.
Same mana as Liberators, so it basically means you can use the Liberator's ability for +1 save, +1 to hit on your Paladins and your Justicars. So
solid. +1 hit on shooting. Again, not too bad. This one's a little bit cheaper. It's 130. This one,
and it could be a significant chunk of your army, couldn't it?
Oh, mate, Justicar units, Vanguard Raptors as well. So that's good.
Yeah,
long
that
strikes.
makes them very reliable.
Long strikes, yeah.
Get around Lookout Sir with that.
Then you've got the Stormkeep Patrol, so Lord Veritant, Gryph-hounds, 2 Redeemer or Justicar units in any combination. Can only be in a Stormkeep army. It's got Ever Vigilant. I've got this bit cut off here. So remove units from the battalion. Must set up the Lord Veritant anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 for enemy units. Then set up units from the battalion wholly within 12 with the Lord Veritant more than 9. So it's like after enemies are set up before the battle round begins. So it's like an alpha redeployment for your going Justicars, shooters, and Redeemers are the sort of the sacrosanct
Libs and Secretors. It's Libs and Secretors,
right?
So Redeemers, yeah.
So you could set up a shooting alpha strike with that, couldn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I got the points confused because everything Stormcast always downs the same. This one is 130 and the previous one is 160.
Right. I was going to say the other one's like pretty
tasty,
pretty good.
Big chunk of your army, isn't it? So all pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Mega Formation, which we'll gloss over that, but then you've got Van Brecht's Black Watch Formation.
The bit that you would like your boy Van Brecht watch the other show.
Yeah. Which has Lord Veritant, Kaiser Van Brecht in it, 1 unit of Gryph-hounds, 1-2 Judicators, 1 Castigator unit. So it's all guns. He is a named character. You must be Anvils, and again, it's got the same rule. So after armies set up before the first battle round, remove the units, so you set them up again, and then basically that is good because you're Anvils. You can do that before the first battle round, take the first turn, then shoot in the hero phase with command points. And
so it says 1 Castigator unit, so you just go big on the Castigator unit, don't you? I think there.
Yeah, well, Judicators are just as good.
Yeah.
So,
10 people tend to maximise on small units because of the power of the champions, but 10 Judicators is still pretty solid.
And don't forget that the Hurricane crossbows get massive bonuses at short range and not moving, so you can basically roll shed loads of dice.
And the mortal wound crossbow as well there. If you want to pick off certain things with the mortal wounds, because I can't remember exactly how that works in the rules now, but that's always handy. People don't tend to take that, they take the exploder.
You've also got a trait, which is when you use the General Sanction ability, you can pick an enemy Chaos or Death hero instead of an enemy wizard. In addition, I think it's add 1 to hit rolls made by this general target a vampire. So I don't know what the Sanction ability is, but it says you can pick a hero that isn't a wizard, so Chaos or Death. So it's obviously the Lord Veritans thing.
Rules, yeah. It's kind of cool. I quite like that Van Brecht.
It's another 161, so you're paying, but again, it's a pretty large chunk of an army, and it's a very strong ability.
You're in Anvils, it gives you a really good alpha strike. You're doing it before the battle round, after the setup, but before the battle round starts. So it's very flexible. You can use the Anvil's ability to shoot in your hero phase, then you can shoot in your shooting phase, you get a double tap. I think it's super good.
And his sanction ability is 4 plus D3 mortal wounds to an enemy wizard within 7.
Yeah. So it's okay. So he could poke stuff later on. But I personally think that's a pretty decent formation if you were playing a Storm host.
You want to be pushing towards being low to make the most of that, right?
Yeah.
Low drops.
I mean, yeah. You could take that with another one of the formations basically and have your whole army as a 2-drop.
I think that's a good idea. I think if you're going to do it, it's a lot of points. You're going to end up spending around 300 points, but that's not too dissimilar to the Mega 3 formation crazy one that's been going around a little bit at the moment.
So like
it's a strong ability.
You could actually have a Stormkeep patrol and Van Brecht's arm thing, Black Watch, and do it with the whole army.
Yeah. So I quite like that Van Brecht thing. I think that does sound really cool. I think that's what I'd be leaning if I was doing.
Plus,
you only have to paint 1,700 points of an army, though.
And Judicators a battle line, right?
Yes, in Stormcast.
In Stormcast, which you would be still, wouldn't you? So.
Yeah. So you could basically take Van Brecht's Black Watch and the Stormkeep patrol, and you get 2 Lord Veritans, 2 Gryph-hound units, and then you could go for like a Redeemer unit, and then you just take 2 Justicar units, wouldn't you? Then one of those could be long strikes or something, or hurricane crossbows. Then you could take 2 Judicators and then a Castigator unit. Your whole army redeploys 9 away from the enemy. Your Anvils of Heldenhammer anyway. And then you get to shoot.
So you just take all hurricanes, wouldn't you? You just take Hurricane Judicators, Hurricane crossbows in the Justicar units, and then just roll thousands of dice at people.
And just take big units. Like you just spend all your points on those units, just your 3 battle lines, your 2 heroes. And then whether or not you got there's probably an artifact or something that will help buff your shooting or some way, or getting extra. I mean, it gives you 2 extra command points, right? So, and the Anvil's ability,
one more drop. Yeah, if you're willing to do one more drop as well, you can put an Azeroth in there or something. Just like make sure that there's a really high likelihood of your stuff hitting.
But I think if you think about that, you're going to start the game with 3 command points, and Anvils you can spend it on 3 separate units to shoot. So that means in the first turn you're shooting with 3 units, then you're having your go and you're shooting with the whole army, and you can one of the units is a Redeemer unit. Redeemers are
Secretors or Judicators.
Or Judicators.
No. Redeemers are Liberators, and Justicars are all shooting. Redeemers are the.
So you could take one of the units you could actually take a massive unit of Liberators. And then you could, because they're in that formation, because you're in Stormkeep, you get to you could pick a friend. Your Liberate unit did not move, so they haven't moved because you teleported them, and they stand in a line in front of your guns. And you can add 1 to hit rolls and save rolls, so they become a wall of Liberators that sit in front of your army. Or if you want to be aggressive, you could move and charge because you're 9 away. You move and charge their army and pin them in place while your guns just shoot the heck out of them.
Yeah,
I think that's a cool army.
Like the bolt storms are really good as well. Like just for the amount of shots, like 3 shots per Judicator, 3s and 4s. With those bolt storm crossbows on the Judicator unit, roll a die. 1 in every 5 can take the mortal wound one, which is roll under the meta models in the unit, and they take D3 mortals, and that's an 18-inch range as well. So you can pump out loads of attacks plus like D3 mortal wounds per 2 D3 mortal wounds per 10 if you roll under the meta models in the unit.
Plus you get to play with Kaiser Van Brecht, so even more reason to do it, right? So
got a bit excitable then. So that's what we think.
And you've got the Gryph-hounds, which I believe if they drop near you, you can shoot in response.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 Gryph-hound units as well.
Cool.
And also there's fast-moving crap. A lot of the time when you take a formation, it's only got the necessaries in it. Like we said with the Harpies, it's nice to get to include some crappy things without having to take your drops.
They're your objective scores, right? Whilst you're there, like they're the ones like darting around getting the objectives.
Dying.
Just a screen, aren't they? Just another layer of stuff people have to get past.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I like that. Right. I think what we'll do is we'll take a little break, come back, and then we'll talk about the Idoneth changes.
Fish time.
Cool. Exactly. And we are back. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the changes to Idoneth Deepkin. So quite a lot in here in the Broken Realms Morathi book, which adds to the Deepkin army. It's just super exciting if you're an Idoneth player.
And like variety.
Yeah. If you don't want to just have eels.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of that Mighty Boosh thing where he's just there going, eels. Like the polo man. He's got the big polo mint on his face. You know what I'm talking about.
I think it's cool. I do like the idea of like putting Alapexes in there and Leviathans as well. Like they do seem like me and you were talking the other day, weren't we, Russ? The turtles. I have 4 of them. Like name them after your favourite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The Donatello.
Purple one, red one, orange one.
Oh, don't
guys, don't tempt me.
Great idea.
I'm already skipping the rules and I'm going to their points. Like,
just like, how many can I get in? Can I get them in? Could you get Splinter in as an ally? I mean, you can't ally Skaven in.
You can, but you can convert one up, Byron. You already converted one, like right?
Use that as the Eidolon. Use a converted Vermin Lord as the Eidolon and say it's Splinter. Splinter Ascendant.
I'm waiting for Byron to do a Drybrush Deepkin army as well. Like get some like really funky bright Drybrush in. So
1,360 points for 4 of them.
Yeah. Struggle to get much else in.
Just pick your favourite turtle then.
What's the problem there? 6 turtles, mate.
Yeah.
So we should talk about the rules a little bit. So
probably don't we? Yeah.
So we get the Idoneth Deepkin mount trait. So quite interesting. So if it includes any heroes on a deep mare, one of them could have a deep mare mount trait. You can choose it. And if you have any Leviathans, one can have a Leviathan. And you can get 1 extra Leviathan or hero to have a mount trait for each battalion. And you can't have more than 1 on the same model, and you can't take the same one more than once. So,
but you're only ever taking 1 hero on a deep mare and 1 Leviathan anyway, really. So I don't think it's...
4.
I mean, let's...
You just said 4.
Sure, okay.
What's this negativity? Okay, maybe I would cap at 3 because there's only 3 mount traits.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to give. You need like 2 formations.
Yeah, I'd have 3 tens of thralls and 4
yeah.
All right. So what do they do?
Cool.
So you get on the deep mare, you get 1 which is Swift-Finned Impaler. So when he charges, basically, if you roll a dice, you roll a 6, it does D6 instead of D3. So I think it normally does it on a 2+.
Yeah. It never does it on a 2+. You always roll a 1.
Yeah. always. I've played Juggernaut, so I know what it's like. So you've got Savage Ferocity, so add 1 to the attacks of this fanged maw, talons, and its tail. So that's pretty good.
That'd be quite good. Now, these, correct me if I'm wrong, but Deepmere traits mean that it's a hero, so you can give these to Volturnus.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not restricted by special characters. I've just read number 3 though, so let's not talk about anything else.
Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy models that are within 3 of this model.
So
yes, please.
Volturnus is now -1 to hit.
It's not even him. It's if you're within 3 and you're hitting anything, you're -1 to hit.
Grow up your debuff piece. That's wicked. That's good. The second one is good as well, though, in terms of reliable damage output. That's great.
Well, just double checking the amount of attacks that they've got, as well. So you've got 3 attacks with the jaws and talons at rend 1, damage 1, which is good. And also then it's got 3 attacks at damage 2, no rend. So it's just getting you can.
It's a lot of medium quality attacks. Yeah. The first one I wouldn't consider, which may sound a bit weird to some people, but the difference between D3 and D6 reliability is not as much as you would think.
No,
it really isn't. If that said 2D3, we'd be having a completely different discussion. But I wouldn't even bother considering that one.
No,
I think Void Chill's the go-to.
It's coolest sounding as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Then the Leviathan ones can't really look past the first one of Ancient. So if the weapon used for attack targets this model has a rend characteristic of -1, change the rend characteristic to nothing.
We know that's good.
So
especially better when you see that you do warscroll.
When you see a warscroll, it's
okay. So then you've got the Denizens of the Darkest Depths. So add 1 to number of mortal wounds inflicted by its crushing charge ability,
which is a better now as well. Isn't it?
It means you'll always inflict 1 mortal wound if you roll a 1.
Boring.
All right. And then you've got the Reverberating Carapace, which increases its void drum from 12 to 15, which is quite a good buff because it's +1 to hit on the Marty and +1 to save on pretty much everything else.
And it's a big base already, so
so not too bad. If you're going to take the second one, then
if you don't want your 2-up save, ignore rend 1 turtle, then you then you go for the void drum. Yeah.
I guess we'll readdress these when we go to the scroll, I guess, because that'll make things more apparent.
So speaking of scroll, now what I've done is I've actually got the if I can actually get this to work.
You can blank us off and have old scroll versus new scroll.
Yeah, I've just put this in the wrong way around. There we go. So the old scroll for the Alapexes and
cool.
And then the current, so the new one. So they've obviously changed the shark scroll, and pretty good. I mean, basically just made it better. So in the old scroll was movement 12, the new one is movement 14. The harpoon was 24-inch range, 3 attacks, freeze, no rend 1 damage. It's now got 4 shots and it's got rend. It's a little bit better. The net launch is 18 inches, 1 shot, freeze, no rend, 3 damage. And in the old rules, it is exactly the same. But there is a change to that, which is important. So the entangled rule, a unit that has been hit by any attacks made by a net launcher cannot pile in.
Which is brilliant.
So amazing in Deepkin. Because you've got all those little ovals that can point at the edge of a unit and just stop the unit piling in.
Can you buff its hit roll?
Well, I don't think so, but you could have multiple and it's on a 3. Yeah. So you don't have to do damage, you don't have to kill anything. You just got to hit.
Take them in units, though, don't you? Take them in units of 3.
That's pretty reliable.
I mean, if you've got 3 Alapexes, you could basically guarantee it, but you could also, after hit that unit, they can't pile in. I hit this unit, they can't pile in. I hit this unit, they can't pile in. All the eels going on the sides, and now your whole army is static. And it's just...
I mean, but even Even the sharks going in though, the sharks now are like the damage output they've got is pretty. I mean, it's not the same as a unit of 9 eels, but it's much more appealing, I think, now to take.
Yeah. So speaking of which, so they've got 6 attacks, freeze, no rend 1 damage, and 3 attacks, freeze, rend 2, damage 2. In the old rules, they had more attacks and like they had 1 bite, and they had fins, but it probably works out about the same. I would say in terms of their melee ability. Roll less dice, which is always nice when you try to speed things up. Bloodthirsty Predators rule is better now. So what it used to be is at the start of your charge phase, if it's within 12 enemy models that have been allocated any wounds, you can reroll charge rolls. Now it's add 1 to attacks of its bites if it's within 3 of any enemy models that have wounds allocated to them, or it's within 3 of any enemy units that have had any models slain this turn. So you can
reliable.
Shoot a unit, or there's a wounded model, you're getting +1 attack. It's pretty good, right? Because the bite is freeze, rend 2, damage 2, 3 attacks. So.
And if you put in, you got to think, if you're taking a unit of 2 or 3, if you do 2 and you're getting through those, because you're going to take, I think you take the net launcher. I mean, you can take multiples, can't you? You take if you take 3, 2 net launchers and 1 doing rend 1, damage 1. So then you've got the reliability of those extra shots at rend 1 to make sure that something dies, so that when the sharks go in then, if you're lucky and you put through the net launcher, you've got the damage 3, which is going to do you well anyway. But it just means that then when those sharks go in, if you have 3 of them going into a damaged unit, there's going to be a lot of attacks. A lot of attacks there.
And if they're not piling in, you could be an absolute knobhead. This is true blue knobhead, through and through.
The nets are so good.
That's disgusting.
I mean,
games are won with pile-ins.
I think they're 100 points at the moment, but I think they've gone up to 130. Is that right in the new book?
I'll tell you.
They are Alapex's 110 points.
It's a 10-point increase. Pretty good. Pay that for
110 points though. When you think it's a 4 save, 8 wound, move 14 model that is pretty fighty, and you're going to tag it on the end of units because they don't degrade with the amount of attacks. Yeah, I think, and hopefully we'll see them on the table because those shark models are sick.
There's quite a cool formation that uses a turtle and alapexes and eels, which I think you'll see.
It's Byron's army when he does his new army.
Yeah, I'm not going to be sticking any Deepkin models on the back of mine, but as far as the wonderful SeaWorld extravagance goes...
You could just use those wolves with your elves on them and say they're alapexes.
Cloaks, mate. It's an elf with a
cloak. The cloak hides their fins and big...
Games Workshop are crying because they've done all these nice models and Byron's just using his wolves for it all.
If anything... They tend to knock it out of the park whenever they copy nature, and I love the sharks and the turtles. Yeah.
You're going to be building some Idoneth for us.
Yeah, well, I am tempted. So, Eidolon of Misthavn, Aspect of the Storm. Yeah. So, new war scroll for the Eidolons as well, which is much, much appreciated. So, obviously, 3 up armor save and 12. I believe they are exactly the same profile-wise. 12,
they look
3. Yeah, they're exactly the same.
Because I played a lot with the Storm, didn't I, back in the day, back when they first came out, and it looks...
so
the scroll looks a lot less busy when you look at it on the page. I don't know if that's just because...
No, it's probably a little bit more, but I think they are a little bit more because they've got a bit more ability. So basically, the stats-wise, exactly the same. The difference is its ability. So... you still got the heal D3 if it makes a charge, and you get to add 1 to its attacks and damage if with his spear if he made a charge, and he can retreat and charge, which he still had before.
Cool.
The extra ability though is
a mount now as well, isn't it? As opposed to it was before,
So you can't put Sword of the Anti-Heroes, whatever it was that people used to do, on the fish.
So,
the fish of death.
And then, Fish and 6 more wins.
And then you've got the Drench with Hate, so add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 18 of any friendly models with this ability. So plus 1 to wound on your army, pretty strong.
Yeah. Was that reroll ones, or was that a different one before? Is it exactly the same?
I don't think he had it before.
So I don't remember
he did. He had reroll win rolls of 1. There you go. Within that.
Yeah, that was it. I thought it was reroll. You can tell I played with it a lot. It was reroll win rolls of 1. But I think that's better. Add 1, you know.
Yeah.
Your sharks are going in, wounded on 2s.
Mm-hmm.
Or your eels, wounded on 2s.
And if you're using the Marty, you can get a hit buff as well from the turtle and a wound buff from this guy. So.
Oh yeah, it makes thralls because they're quite underrated. Whereas I think units of 10s of thralls are really good. If you're getting plus on the hit, plus on the wound, and they're damaged, they've got all those extra rules that come with sort of if it's got extra wounds and or that'll be quite good. Synergizes quite nicely.
Also, the moment you've got a buff, rather than reroll 1s, there's another way to get reroll 1s in the game anyway, and this dude is a hero. So if you've got CPs around, you could be choosing to reroll your hits or your wounds of 1 anyway. So the moment that you can make something 2s, ideally 3s are still good instead of 4s, you can get some ridiculous levels of reliability. On your wound rolls there, if you sent some sharks in and they're hitting on 2s and then wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s or something like that, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then there's pulled into the depths, isn't there? Which is you basically get to. I think it's exactly the same. So
+1 to wound a hero. Is that it?
It used to be subtract 1 from hit rolls for that hero for the rest of the combat phase if you pick a model, basically. But now it's start the combat phase, pick 1 enemy hero with wounds character 8 or less, which within 3 of the model, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this model. So it just means you can go in and spike a little hero on your spear.
Yeah, because it's your 2s, run 2, damage 3, 4 attacks.
Yep.
And probably one of the abilities which is very good is the new one, which is Storm Shoal, which basically gives you a 5-up bounce save on your Eidolon.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal. You've only got 12 wounds, so that's that counts for a lot. And that's a pretty... Suddenly, that absolutely jumps the model. 12 wounds, 3-up save is solid-ish, but adding a 5-up to that is just such a big deal.
What was his points before in the handbook? Because he's 330 now, isn't he?
His points were, I actually have this up, he's with 380 for the sea and 360 for the storm. So he's
dropped 30 points.
He's dropped 30 points and got better. So,
yeah.
That's one hell of a trip to Matalan that he's done, isn't it?
Yeah.
For people in America, that's a convenience
It's
store.
A budget clothing store that you can buy from the UK.
Where you can go get your Storm Shoal cloak from if you want to.
That was successful for him.
Matalan.
So I'm here to add tactical insight.
So the other Matalan shopper is the aspect of the sea.
He got ripped off. His hat looks stupid.
Yeah, we don't see this one that much on the table, which is hopefully the changes here will make a difference, and I think you will.
We don't see either.
Let's find out.
Because they're not eels, right? They're not eels of Voltaire.
I guess I used to play with the Storm, didn't I, quite a lot. So my army was eels and the Storm in there. I love the model, so it's nice to see them get a much needed buff. So
yeah, I do apologise for people seeing me flip between the two scrolls, but I'm trying to see the changes. So basically the profile is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, the big difference is you've still got the 5-up bounce, which is on this one as well. So what I quite like this is you can reroll casting, dispelling, unbinding, and if you don't reroll any casting or dispelling rolls, you can heal D3 wounds. I think it used to just be casting rolls.
That's a great ability.
I can't remember.
It was just casting rolls, dormant energies.
Yeah.
So you've got Tranquility of the Abyss, add 3 to Bravery of Friendly Idoneth while they're wholly within 18. And the old scroll, I believe, was a shorter range.
3's a significant buff.
Which
when you've got small units as well, everyone knows how painful it is to know that your unit on a roll of a 5 or a 6 is going to lose 2 more models when it's an elite unit. That hurts a lot.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got the Magic, so 2 spells, and bind 2, and it's got Cloying Mist and Tsunami of Terror. So Cloying Mist has a casting value of 6. Pick an Idoneth Deepkin unit or an enemy unit within 12. If you picked Idoneth, they heal D3. If you picked an enemy, they suffer D3. Then Tsunami of Terror,
which is a good one, right?
Yeah, so pick D6 enemy units within 12. Until the next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by those units and subtract 1 from the bravery of those units.
So they're basically the same, aren't they? The spells haven't changed.
They were both great anyway, it's just you didn't see the model. He wasn't quite worth it, but they're very flexible, extremely flexible, like a proper utility piece.
So like D6 units at -1 to hit is good.
You got a mount trait that combos nicely as well with that now. So that's -2. If you stand one guy, obviously it doesn't affect units within 3 of the person with a -1 to hit. It is models within 3 of the -1 to hit, but still -2 to hit on a big Gribbly is enough to basically completely blunt in its attacks.
Yeah, and she's had a big drop in points as well, or the actual Leviathan of Aspect of the Sea. Like, was it 380? You said initially the points.
Yeah,
I think 380 on, and now she's down to 330.
Yeah, so 50-point drop, get the extra back save and the reroll to unbind, which I think that's the really strong thing, especially in the magic meta. That's rerolling unbind rolls is so good.
Yeah. I can see like Idoneth lists like that are not. I mean, you're still going to take heals because of like the maneuverability and stuff. But I do think at that points level, it makes them much more attractive, and you feel like you're not hamstringing yourself by taking them now if you wanted to.
I completely agree with that assessment. It's really nice to see.
I was thinking like aesthetically what I'd like an Idoneth army to look like if I was playing with it, and I would have Storm. I would have a small deep mare guy, a turtle, some sharks and some eels, and Soul Scryer basically.
So I'd like that. If you put like 2 units of Thralls in that as well, I think, because I really like the Thrall models. Like, they're quite nice to put together as well. So it'd be nice to see those. And I think they do like segueing on to the Leviathan. Like, it's quite nice because they do get a buff with the Leviathan, which is good.
Low model count army that can still compete, which I'm always a huge fan of within the game.
Yeah, the Leviathan is super good.
I think the big winner, I think the Leviathan maybe, but.
Yeah, I mean, it has had a profile change, quite a significant one. So it used to have a movement of 12, which degraded. Now it's just got a flat 10 that doesn't get worse. But the biggest thing is the change to the save. So it used to have a 3-up armor save. Now it's got a 2-up save, which degrades. Yeah. So once it's taken 9 wounds, it goes to a 3-up. Once it's taken 12 wounds, it goes to a 4-up. And when it's had 15, it goes to a 5-up.
When it's got 1 wound left, it's on a 5-up save. So it's.
But do you have a way to heal wounds in the army? Just as a question.
Yes,
the aspect of the C can heal D3 wounds.
Oh well, that's convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he can heal his turtles. So Splinter could be healing his Donatello.
Yeah, his turtle.
Still got 16 wounds. It's got the Razor Shell harpoon launchers, so 24-inch range, 8 attacks, freeze, run 1, damage 1.
Because that's changed, hasn't it? Because that used to be 6 attacks, no rend.
It used to be 3 attacks, freeze, no rend, 1 damage. And I think the scroll said it was armed with 2.
Yeah.
And then I think they FAQ'd it to be 6, so yeah, you might be right. But it's got an extra shot, basically, per launcher, so it's 8.
And the rend on it as well is it makes it more reliable shooting, because I felt like I didn't have that reach out and touch thing, which is nice. Yeah,
it's a shame that the Nomati scrolls didn't get updated as well, because I think they could do with a little bit of an update. Particularly
it's the book then, though, isn't it? Like if you update the Nomati, it's the book, because that's nothing left.
No, there's plenty left in the book. You're not touching.
I actually think that the Nomati Reavers, not the Thralls, are the most undersung. You look at them on paper and you think they're rubbish, and then you play with them and you're like, they can run and shoot. They're really fast. They're like move 9,
8,
and on 8, and on turn 3, like they get to shoot 3 times, and it's just like such a high volume of attacks for something that you mostly ignore because you're trying to kill the eels. They're the things that like skirt around the back and score the objectives and just shoot all of the attacks. On that turn 3, I think they are
How many did you have in your army, Les?
I never had any of them. But I do think they're good. I don't want to say a certain Deepkin player that I will not name in the UK tournament scene utilised them very well.
Yeah,
I'm not saying his name.
Don't give Tinsdale any credit. We don't want it. So.
Yeah.
Then obviously, like you some changes to the attack. So you used to get like some random attacks. Yeah. Which was the spears and harpoons were separate. They're now just one profile. 6 attacks, freeze, no rend 1 damage. The fins, you've got 4 attacks, 2s freeze, rend 1, damage 4, which drops down as it gets hurt, but it will stay at damage 4 for quite a while. It used to be, I believe, damage 3, and used to degrade a lot quicker because it was like up to 3 wounds suffered, you would start degrading. Whereas the new Leviathan, you have to take 9 wounds before you get any worse. And with a 2-up save, that's going to be quite tricky to do. And then the Jaws, again, the hit roll gets worse, but it's 2 attacks, 2s, rend 2, damage 3. And if you roll I think a 6,
3 mortal wounds.
Unless it's a monster, then it's 6 mortal wounds.
Because it used to be one attack with D6 wounds, didn't it? Whereas now it's 2 attacks doing 3.
Yeah, it used to
damage.
Be 1 attack with DS, so it's a lot better. And also the Jaws of Death was 6 mortal wounds, but you could still do 6, but you could also do 12 against a monster if you got particularly lucky. Plus, you basically able to buff its attacks and stuff anyway, so it's kind of you might get there. So it's also got a crushing charge ability that when you charge, you roll a dice on a 2 plus D3. If it has a wounds characteristic of 1, it takes D6 mortal wounds. So better against little things.
Cool.
Which I don't think it had before. It didn't have a mortal wound on the charge. No.
I can't remember. I never played with it, but in the old rules. But I'm just remembering from the times I played against it. That's all.
That type of ability adds up. Like the more you have of something like that in an army, the better it gets. And obviously, we've been memeing eels, but they have the ability to mortal wounds. So it just appearing in multiple places in an army really has a lot of strength. Like
that damage on the charge is always good, right? Because it's outside
mortals,
of the outside of the combat phase and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. I was just checking the mate trait for it as well. So it's kind of like it does 1 mortal wound anyway, doesn't it? Right. Yeah. So it's like add 1 to the number of mortal wounds inflicted on enemy units by the model's crushing charge ability. This means it will inflict 1 mortal wound on an enemy unit on a roll of a 1.
So don't want that.
No. You're not taking that. It's 2 plus saving 1, rend 1. Yeah. It's ignore rend 1.
Every day of the week. So let's not pretend.
Might as well be honest. War scroll.
Void Drum. Add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target for any Idoneth Deepkin units have a wounds characteristic 8 or less, wholly within 12 of any Leviathans. In addition, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by Namarti units that are wholly within 12. Now,
how many wounds is a shark?
8. So it affects everything apart from Eidolons and Leviathans, basically.
Yeah.
What I like about this, 1, you can buff your Namarti Reavers, is that what they're called? The bow guys?
Yeah, the bow guys,
shooting. You can also you get +1 cover in the first battle round, but this isn't cover, this is a save. So it used to give you cover. So now it doesn't give you cover, it just gives you a +1. So cover and +1 is +2. So
that's a big deal. That's huge.
Your Namarti would have a 3-up save on the first battle round, like stood out in the open, like because they got a 5-up normally. Your eels would be on like a 2-up because they've got
because they're 4s right?
normally. So you're like, well, the turtle, not only has it got a 2-up as well, it's just very, very good.
It gives the ability to give your opponent the first turn for lols quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah. I always think Deepkin are best when they're played patiently rather than I'm going to try an alpha strike, take first turn and alpha strike, because the eels being able so fast to be able to come from wherever they want with the damage output they can deliver, the longer you hold off before you deliver it, the more turns the opponent has to play in a weird way, creating circles and dead zones.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I've played Deepkin players, they just first turn, they're all in on you, and you're like, cool, I don't have to worry about it anymore, and I just play a normal game. Whereas if you keep the units and you drip feed them and you do it in waves, pun intended, then actually just put one unit in, keep the other 2 units back. Even if they're not off the table, but they're just far away. They're like movement 18, aren't they? I mean, it's like ridiculous. And then you get run and charge in the second battle round, and
they're 16, aren't they? And your shark just got fast as well, which is not unhelpful. So.
Yeah, I think as well, like it gives you the option to build a castle around the Leviathan as well. So you can have like your Namarti, your Thralls there next to the Leviathan, making it really good on that first turn, backed up with the Reavers for the shooting, and then your Eels playing that sort of like that interference role that go around the edge of it, whilst your castle moves forward with its relatively good save. Your Namarti on a fort save if they're in range of the Leviathan anyway, and they're hitting on 2s, I believe, like because Thralls hit on 3s, and then your bow guys hit on 3s instead of 4s. So like when you're within that 9-inch range and they're shooting 3 times, like hitting on 3s with big units is just death by phase and cuts. Plus you've got the shooting from the Leviathan as well, and like the sharks. I think it allows you to change the look of the army and make it interesting and play a different way if you didn't want to go all in on Eels. I could see
very MSU elfy in feel, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think I could see an army now with a turtle, with some Thralls, with some Reavers, some sharks, some stuff like around the edges of it, depending on the points. And it wouldn't feel like you're a sacrifice. I mean, you would be giving up the competitive build, which is mostly Eels, but I think it would allow you to play a different style of Idoneth Deepkin army, which I think a lot of people have been, craving at the moment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. All these changes are positive, right? They're all buffs in a way.
Yeah.
Points haven't really gone up; they've gone down in some cases. I think the Leviathan now is 330. Is it in the new book? I haven't got it in front of me, so.
I'll get the points up. Leviathan's 340.
340, and I think at the moment it's 310, so it's a 30-point increase, but I would pay that for the changes. I mean, the 2-up save only getting worse once you've taken 9 wounds. I mean, if you had an 8-wound model with a 2-up save, ignore Rend 1, it's pretty hard to get rid of, right?
Yeah, you can get that reroll 1s on it easy as well, can't you? So it's just, if you haven't got any Rend, you're laughing.
Beautiful model, right? So who doesn't want to paint a big turtle?
And I'd love to see it on the table. Like I've only ever played one.
There's a cool formation. I actually played a game against Paul Marshall saying he used this, and I think I played another guy who had it, and I can't remember his name, so I apologise.
Wasn't it Six Nations you played?
I did, but he didn't have the turtle and stuff. But he was,
didn't he? Okay.
He was a stand-in, and he used someone else's army. So and he played. We did when I recorded the show on it. We did shout him out, but he played in Deepkin in probably the best way that anyone's ever played them against me, when they drip fed and used the movement and come in piecemeal and committed in one place only until turn 3, and then was like, well, I'm now on the objectives, it's turn 3, if you charge me I'll fight you first. And so he played it very, very well. Most people I've played with Idoneth have not played it particularly as well as I thought they could have. I
remember you coming away from it, it's like being like excited for Idoneth because you saw a completely different style of game after playing that.
Yeah. And like, to be honest, they're an army that I've sort of liked and not liked, and
what's not like to like about evil elves on sea creatures?
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's like, I think obviously me and Russ have talked about the background quite a bit, and like they are really not nice when you read what they're like in the background. And I think they're quite bright, and I do like the end of the sea brightness that GW have done with their paint scheme, but I think they really lend themselves to like that really dark, grim dark style. Like, imagine sort of like white sort of like eels where they've just not been seen sunlight, so they don't have any sort of referenceable pale and stuff like that. With like
anglerfish should be the like the typical example of something properly
OSL and dark sort of
blood rain the mouths and stuff.
I mean, there was one of the entries in the FACEHAMMER Worldwide, which was a sort of semi-grim dark army, which was really nice. But
Diadram, isn't it? Diadram, the guy who did the Teclis conversion. Yeah, that's him.
So the Achillean Core is the formation I was thinking of. So it's Leviathan, 2 units of Achillean Guard and 2 units of Alapexes. And once per phase, you can reroll 1 hit, wound, save, run, or charge roll for 1 or more unit for this battalion wholly within 12 of the Leviathan. So it's good. Although it's not particularly amazing, the fact that you could have an army that slots into there, and they're all good war scrolls now. You could have your entire army pretty much without your king on Deepmare or whatever as separate drops, so you could get an easily a 2, 3, 4 drop army depending on how many heroes you wanted. I think the aspect of the Storm is very good now because of that buff, that Drenched in Hatred. Cool name, cool model. I think I'd definitely, if I was doing an army aesthetically, I would want him, a turtle, some snake, some sharks, some eels, some Namarti, and a couple of characters, and it would look very good and it would be very balanced. But I think it would actually be effective on the table, and there's a lot of play around formations and different things you could do. So big fan of these changes, I must admit.
And also there's no obviously enclaves in there. There's no enclaves, so you can then factor that in. Like most people always take Domhain or Thuthan and flip the tides, but there's different. Like I think if you're leaning into the Leviathan and the Alapexes and stuff like that, you can then use the different enclaves. I mean, I think maybe this is probably another show where we can look into that because it seems like we're quite excited about it.
I wanted to write a few lists and do some Deepkin armies, but I haven't had time because we were reading the lore and getting the lore show and getting this prep. So I think probably a follow-up show will be a Deepkin showcase with these changes with some different. But one of the Deepkin armies that I've really enjoyed, like the kind of the look of and wanted to lean into, is the Morthan. I just had to check the name because they basically work around the soul renders and Namarti and healing extra models.
Oh yeah, because they're bringing the models back, aren't they? Did we play test that, or did we? Yeah, I think we went it back in the day when
I played against an army like that once a long time ago, and it was surprisingly good. It felt like vampires under the sea.
One of the things that I like is you get a spell which is called Freezing Mist, which is pick an enemy unit within 12 of the caster until the next hero phase. You can only move 1 inch when it piles in, and any abilities that increase its piling are ignored. So with that and the nets and using the aspect of the sea, and then because the drum now buffs your Namarti and you can give them sort of extra save from the drum, but also the extra to hit, and you've got the soul renders returning like 6 models a turn.
Because they just return, don't they? They don't do the D3, they just return.
You get a bonus free. So it's a bonus free on top of what they do D3. Normally, which I think is D3. But I think then one of the things is you get 6. If you there's another thing that gives you your flat free as well. So basically, it's like you can get 6 flat.
So you have 30 thralls that are like additional attacks on low wound model units or +1 damage on high wound model units next to your Leviathan, hitting on like 2s with an additional save.
And if you had the aspect of the Storm, you'd be wounded on 2s as well. Because you get +1 to wound, so you'd be 2s and 2s with rend, 3 attacks. You can get them to 3 attacks a model.
It depends on the wound characteristic of what they're fighting, doesn't it? It's like +1 attack for the lower wound models, and +1 damage for the higher wound.
Or their damage too.
Yeah,
2 attacks. So it's, I think I think there's a cool looking list there. Around 2 big units of 30 thralls, backed up by pile-in shenanigans from sharks and void drums. So I will write a couple lists. I haven't had time to sit down and math it out.
We do a show on it properly. I think we'll
do a show because I think there's a lot, but we haven't got to the end of the Deepkin stuff in this book yet. So we are on a massive tangent. So thanks for sticking.
Another
with
formation.
Blood Serf Hunt. So this is King Sifus Nematar of Priam. He is the right hand and royal huntmaster of High King Volturnus. So you get the Alakeen King and 1 to 2 units of Alapexes. So the King is a unique character.
Yeah. Because you have to take Hierarch, isn't it? Is that his battalion?
Yeah, this is the weird thing. So you have to be in the Ironrack Enclave, which is the one that allows your allies to benefit from the tides. So I did look at it because I was thinking, I wonder what they're like because maybe they're good, and with the changes, they're.
So your fulminators that have to be shot in cover on the first turn as allies.
Yes. So basically, you're getting all that stuff, but actually. The sort of the perverse part of me was thinking you could ally Daughters of Khaine units because it goes completely against the the story just because I like to break it, but no. So you get to add 1 to casting and unbind for wizards, so useful.
Especially if you're getting to re-roll.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you've got an aspect to the sea, definitely. Then the other trait is that you, allied units are treated as having the Tides of Death battle trait and can use abilities for the Tides of Death table. So they're the two things they get. There's something to do with a formation, but whatever. Pretty cool. So you get Deadly Guardian's ability. So add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the barbed hooks and blades by Alapex units that are hold within 12 of the king. In addition, roll a dice for you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the king. If it's within 3 of an Alapex, on 2+, you allocate it to the Alapex to the king. And if he is the army general, if Namar is your army's general, he has the Lord of Storm and Sea command trait from battletome Idoneth Deepkin.
Which I have no idea what that does.
I'm on it. I did look at it. Yeah, I'm just going to look at it now.
You get to throw 2 swordfish at your opponent.
So that's actually like you can either have
2 to bravery.
Okay.
With friendly Idoneth units within 12. So
they are quite low bravery, other than the aspects from what I remember.
Yeah.
6
with one of the aspects in there, you could be +5 to bravery, which is like that's basically immune to battle shock.
Yeah, I personally think that the Iron Rack are probably one of the weaker, what they're called, enclaves.
Enclaves, yeah.
And I think that the battalion is quite small.
It's 130 points. That's not worth it. I don't think.
Yeah, I think as well, particularly when like the Namarti Corps is 100 points, and that's like Eels, Turtle, Alapexes.
You're taking the Namarti Corps.
You're taking the core, and then you can go into Domhain or Futan or one of the more useful ones. So it's cool. I think if you want to do a themed army, it's all good. But I wasn't really that tempted by that. So
I think the corps, Namarti Corps, come out quite well in that. I think in the wash that it does seem quite exciting.
Whatever unit in that formation has been buffed, right? So it's like
I think no formation came out better in the wash. They were good at that anyway. So I think a more varied, like high drop, screw it off. Don't worry about keeping them low whatsoever. Like you can rock up with like 1 ally and then like 12 other drops and set up some of it off the table. Give your opponent the first turn when you plus a billion save anyway, and let them fill their boots. And while they were spending 300 points making their Stormcast drop in 2 drops, you can give like 0 shits.
Yeah.
And we're not done. As you'll be pleased to know, we have now got the Slaves to Darkness segment of the show. For those Slaves fans out there, I know you're there. We bros. And we have the Idolaters, which is the Slaves to Darkness Damned Legion that's in this book.
New one.
So quite interesting, this one. So you basically get the Idolaters keyword, and you get these rules. So Blessed of Chaos, add 1 to prayer rolls for Idolaters priests. In addition, units in your army with the priest keyword have the leader battlefield role. So war shrines could be leaders because they're priests, and I'm pretty sure they've got a guy on the top as a priest. I'd have to double check that actually, because I'm now doubting myself with Les's expression. So
+1 to prayer rolls is really good though.
Yeah, exactly.
You're probably right.
I think it fits into the background as well, because obviously that's the in the other show you find out, but the war shrines feature heavily in his force. So they do have the priest keyword. So war shrines become leaders. So pretty cool. You also, I think visually that would be amazing for some conversion opportunities you could do. I mean, I've got one that I've converted on the back of a Stonehorn that I was doing as a war shrine back in the day, but would become was back before AOS, so I haven't gone back to it. So you also got the Penelope of Ruin rule, which is idler cultist units have the battle line battlefield roll, so they're the Warcry warbands. In addition, when you make a charge roll for cultists, change the lowest dice to a 6. If it's a double, change one of the dice to a 6. So they get the Marauder charge rule. Particularly good for some of them because they've got scouting stuff. So I think the Slanesh ones, which are, the name now escapes me, the Flayed... Unmade, that's the ones. I believe they've got a way to teleport or be across the table. But obviously charging between 7 and 12 guaranteed is extremely strong. And also the Warcry warbands are cool. The models are really nice. And then your Untamed Beasts become battle line. So your Untamed Beast screen units, even if you had 3 units of 70 points as battle line to screen your army, you can then put all your points on all the hard, cool stuff, like Demon Princes and War Shrines and Chaos Knights and all the stuff that does damage. Like Varangard. So personally, really like the idea of that purely because the list opportunities it opens up. If you wanted to do an army that had some cultists in it, you had some War Shrine characters, which then allows them to take artifacts and things like that. So
I was just checking to see whether the Warscrolls scrolls up for the Flame guys, just to see what their AOS rules are, but I can't seem to find it.
I was gonna try and do the Warcry stuff, but I was struggling to find it. I
don't think it's because it's not an individual box yet. Currently, I'm not sure if it's.
I'm not sure. It might be on the community site somewhere, but I haven't.
I'll have a nose. You carry on.
Look.
You carry on looking. I'll have a nose.
I'm not sure if you could give the War Shrines artifacts because they're not heroes. Maybe you can. I think it depends on the wording. But anyway, Idolator Lords. So you can upgrade one Chaos Chariot or Gore Beast Chariot unit with only one model to an Idolator Lord. If you do, he gains the Idolator Lord and Priest keyword. Is an Exalted Charioteer, which is the champion model in the unit, which normally you have to have 3 to have the champion, but he is a champion. You must give it a mark, and he knows a prayer from the Idolator's prayers opposite. You get a Destroy the False Idols rule, which is add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by Idolator models that target a priest. In addition, you've got this command ability, Desecrate. Use it in your hero phase. Pick 1 friendly Idolator unit, wholly within 12 of a friendly Idolator Lord, and within 3 inches of a terrain feature that's part of the enemy army. Roll a dice. If the roll is greater than the number of enemy models within 3 of that terrain, the terrain is desecrated and it loses all its scenery rolls. So it's a very, very complicated rule that's the way it's written, but essentially you need your Lord on the table, you pick a unit within 12 that's also within 3 of a terrain that's part of their army, like if it's a Nurgle Tree or a Sylvaneth Wildwood, you roll a dice. If you roll over the number of enemy models, so there's no one there, it's easy to do it, you desecrate it, it loses all its rules. So it's kind of cool. It's a giant destroy terrain rule.
You're also pretty fast. There's a good chance of you getting somewhere first quite easily, right?
Well, you've got the Untamed base pre-game move, and they can move
exactly that
and run. So
it's a big part of it because you do it in your hero phase. So
and your Idolator's prayers are the following. I know it's a bit of wrong order, but I'll do it first because we spoke about it. So start your hero phase. Chant this prayer. 1 Khorne Idolator's unit wholly within 12 of this model. On a 1 to 2, it's not answered. A 3+, you can re-roll hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons. So it's basically, I think it's the same as the War Shrine, this stuff. So the Zinch one, you can re-roll save rolls. The Nurgle one, re-roll wound rolls. Slanesh, re-roll charge rolls. And Undivided, heal D3. So I think they're the same as the War Shrine rules. And then you've got the Idolator Priest General can have a command trait. So you've got Bolstered by Hate, 2 to his wounds. Lord of Terror, -1 bravery. Favoured by the Pantheon, you can add or subtract 2 from the result of any either gods. I think that's the standard ones that they all get anyway. Then the new one's Fiery Orator. He can chant 2 prayers in the hero instead of 1. They can chant the same prayer more than once. Bane of the False Idols. Once per hero phase, he can use the Desecrate command ability without spending a command point. And Smite the Unbeliever, add 2 to the attacks of his melee weapon. So I think the Orator's probably the one to go. Because if you're going into reroll saves or reroll to hit or to wound multiple units on a 2+, it's like...
They're all better than anything else you could take, pretty much.
So pretty cool. And then there's a War Scroll Battalion, Gresh's Iron Reapers, which is a chariot. Basically, it's an Idolator Lord, which is Gresh, and 2 Gore Beast Chariots. So all units have the Idolators, so they must be the Idolators and Undivided. You get the ability Soul Butcher. So the Chaos Greatblade used by the Lord has attacks of 4 instead of 2 and damage of D3 instead of 2. In addition, your modified hit roll is a 6. It does D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends.
Kind of making that chariot guy a hero, isn't it? By just buffing his attacks, you know.
Yeah, he's got a Varanite weapon, I believe. So so it's sort of it's known as the Soul Butcher, the dreaded Varanite Greatblade. And the Profane Oratory. So at the start of the combat phase, you can pick 1 Slaves to Darkness unit whole within 18, add 1 to the hit rolls for attacks made by the unit you picked. So he gets a command trait. So so he gets to take that instead, but you have to be undivided and you have to be in that battalion and you have to, take the idolaters. This is pretty cool. Again, I think a lot of these battalions are kind of more about narrative than they are about competitive play, but
I don't think that needs to be 140 points, in my opinion.
No.
Because it's only going to be for somebody who's really into that sort of stuff.
I'd pay slightly under 100 for that, so I think that's
more an 80-point job, isn't it?
Yeah, I would never consider that.
No. So that is the end of all the rules. So it's quite a lot. So that's
the most that's ever been changed with a book like that, right?
It's a bit like Wrath of the Everchosen. I think there's quite a lot in there, but I think it's the first time it's spread across so many different factions.
And in terms of changes to the scene as we would see it, or the lay of the land, I think that has the most impact of something we've seen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I actually think it's gonna be quite interesting to see what happens going forward with how Morathi plays on the table now, whether or not we see Deepkin list change. I did enjoy the city of Har Kuron as well. I thought that might give people a lot of options for different stuff, and also the Stormcast. It feels like everything in there. It feels like they've given with everything. They've not taken away anything. All they've done is gone have something new, have something new, have something cool, have something cool.
And the stuff that's gone up in points is worth it as well, which is really good to see, because it's always a bit worrying for something that wasn't being taken much to go up. But like sharks, turtles, I'm definitely happy that they are how they are now.
I think it's nice to see a positive, loads of cool stuff that you wouldn't normally see or take has all been kind of lifted up. I mean, even the idolaters is chariots, so you don't really see chariots or Gorby's chariots. The war shrines, and that's actually the Slaves to Darkness thing is actually quite cool. I think the city stuff, your classic kind of Dark Elf, the Darkling Coven stuff's got a bit of a spotlight shone on it. Obviously the Melusai and that weren't necessarily the most popular things in Daughters. So I think it's almost like everything about it is a positive change. From a competitive play point of view, we're talking in terms of it's only ever a good thing.
Seeing more of stuff you didn't see much of.
They're not changes to nerf; they're changes to buff, which I think is nice.
I think it's a lot of bringing things in line with where it should be. It's a very nice way to do it, I think, to kind of slip it out if you can't get everything perfect first time, and if it turns out that no one is touching 3/4 of the unit from a book, then it's a brilliant way to be able to reinvigorate them and add a bit of the fluff, and I won't ever read it, but evolve it as well. You guys have read it. It seems that you're quite into it.
I would be. I know you said that you wouldn't ever read it, Byron, and this is the competitive thing, but I'd highly recommend anyone. We covered it in the other show. It's this book it doesn't feel like a publication of the book feels more like a high fantasy novel than it does an actual sort of this, they did this. It's very, very interesting. And there's some really cool bits. There's a whole bit that we talked about in the other show where it's called The Fractured Empires. And it's almost like the intro to a Star Wars movie where they get you up to speed really, really quickly. And then they give you 6 paragraphs about what Morathi's plans are. And
that's cool.
If they do that going forward, with each bit, it's going to be really cool. Be this is the bit that we do at the start. The Soul Wars event, started, and then it goes, and this is where we're focusing today with this story. I think it's really, really cool. I'd highly recommend, if you don't want to read the book, listen to the show that we put out, obviously. But
I think
it's worth the time.
It's great because it's if you come into the game and you're I don't really know what anything is, and I want to know what happened so far, it gives you a really nice overview, so you can basically go, well, actually, I just want to know the story so far without going back and reading or finding the relevant bits over all this stuff, because there's a lot of filler in amongst stuff that, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, as in it's just that it's stuff that doesn't advance the main overall story to get to this point. So it's your
Age of Sigmar so far.
So it is basically it's the story though so far. It's
a season recap, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a season recap for the start of season 2 of Breaking Bad, and it tells you what happened at the end of season 1. Like that's essentially what it is.
It's a really, really good idea. I mean, the times when I would read it are when I want to know if I'm trying to get inspiration for how to paint something. That's generally when I read fluff, and that is perfect for that type of thing. I can just go in and be like
deep, like lore, not fluff, right? Because fluff makes it sound like. So I'm just
someone's just spent their entire pride with their work. It's just like fluff. It's like when calling it the pizza oven for the fire slayers. It's not a pizza.
Who does that?
It's a magmic fire forge. Yeah.
But I think for me, I really like the idea of doing that Von Brecht Anvils of Heldenhammer force. I think there is something there. I'm definitely going to put some pen to paper and come up with a list for that, which I'll probably do on the next show as well.
It's so funny because Russ is all in on Von Brecht, Von Brecht in the actual backgrade because of what he is, and then his battalion's really good. So I could see his little eyes light up because it's just like, oh, this is really good. I like this, and it's the character I really like. So it's
plus it's quite a nice paint scheme, Anvils, because it's black and gold.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly the same as your Slaves to Darkness army, right? You just do it on the Stormcast instead.
I am so down with black Stormcast. I think they look amazing.
Yeah. I'm super. I think it's a super good list as well. I have to.
I think it's good. Yeah,
I think it will upset some people, which is always good. Well, anyway, I think we will wrap this up because it's been going on for about 2 hours now. So that's
long day for me and you as well, dude.
Yeah, add it to the other 3 hours of the other show, but no, it's not quite that long. But so just want to say thanks for watching. If you like this, like, comment, all that stuff. Join our Discord.
Let us know your suggestions for your armies. Comment below. What would you like to see us talk? Would you like us to go super in depth about a particular, the Namarti Corps or something like that, or what we would do with paint schemes having read this book? Or anything like that, let us know in the comment section and it all gets read and considered. And
today, this should be released on the day of the pre-orders, so obviously pre-order the new Shadow and Pain and your Morathi book and your new army of Von Brecht and his gunners all through Element to help us out. We'd appreciate that. And
or if you go in snacks, get the snacks from there. Snack.
It's like that.
Greg Duchet, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, Greg Duchet, that's why I keep saying he's a YouTube thing, but that's why I keep saying snacks, or just shoot me a DM and I'll tell you.
Thanks for watching, and hopefully this will be useful for you. It's a bit kind of an overview and first impression, so what we want to do is we'll follow this up with some army lists and some more in-depth deep dives into the different factions. If there's anything you guys particularly want to know about, let us know and we'll make sure we cover that. But obviously there's a lot of Melusai lists to look at, we've got the Idoneth stuff to look at, there's the Stormcast stuff to look at, there's the city stuff which we probably won't look at, but it's I'm sure someone will might look at it. And if you've got a great cities army based around these new ones, let us know, put it in the comments, join our Discord, drop it in there and we can discuss it. And if there's anything we think is particularly funky that we like, we will feature it on a show and talk about it and credit you. So get involved. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Cheers guys. Bye.